What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another detailing episode. This week I'm going to show you guys how we transformed this Quantum Gray Audi S3 into what you see behind me, flawless paint. I spent 5 days working on this car. It was a very tough detail, not your typical back detail, but we'll touch on that a little later. If it's your first time here, welcome to the channel, bro. My name is Etienne and I'm the owner of Creative Car Detailing. If you haven't done it already, hit that subscribe button right now and also click the bell icon right next to it so you get notified whenever we post new videos. I try to post 2 automotive videos every week, be it detailing, me working on my own cars, or me covering racing events all over South Africa. I'm going to walk you guys through what exactly we did on this vehicle, why it spent 5 days with us, and hopefully you guys will see where all the time comes in that was spent on this vehicle. So this vehicle was here for full detail, which means I cleaned the interior, the engine bay, and then the full exterior. Unfortunately, this was not a ceramic coating detail, so the vehicle is wearing a wax in terms of protection. We'll touch on that a little later as well. But let me tell you guys how we got to this point. So starting off this detail, I cleaned the engine bay. What I did was I foamed the engine bay completely and then rinsed it off. The engine bay was not dirty, it had a layer of dust on it. So you could have done it without the soap even, but I just put the soap on there to make sure that we get everything clean. But like I mentioned, there was no stains, no oil stains, nothing dirty. It was just a layer of dust. So I foamed the engine up, rinsed it off, and then it was time to move on to the wheels. Well, I cleaned the wheels and the wheel arches. I used iron out on the wheels and then all-purpose cleaner for the tires and the wheel arches with various brushes to get that clean. After the wheels had been cleaned, the next step for us was a multi-stage wash and dry. The multi-stage wash and dry includes the following. We first rinse the paint off to get all the dust on top of the surface off of the paint. Thereafter, I foam the vehicle up and let it sit for about 5 minutes, however long the foam has to dwell off the surface. Now that depends on whether it's summer or winter, whether you're working in the sun or not. This one I had plenty time to let the foam dwell, and then after that I rinsed it off, and then I did a 2-stage or 2-bucket wash method. 1 rinse bucket, 1 wash bucket. After that I rinsed the vehicle off again, and then it was time for decontamination. So we started with doing tar remover. Tar remover, we did it on all the lower portions of the vehicle. Now there was no visible tar spots on the vehicle, but I still do a tar remover just to be 100% sure. After that we spray down the entire vehicle with the iron out. That removes all iron particles all over the vehicle. Iron particles comes from brake dust, exhaust gases, stuff like that. This vehicle was not badly contaminated, but like I say, we still do it to be 100% sure. Thereafter I rinsed the vehicle off, pulled it inside the garage, and then I clayed the paint with I believe it was a medium clay, and just to ensure that there is no embedded contaminants on the paint surface left over before we start the polishing process. I just wrapped up the decontamination stage, which consisted of tar remover, iron out, and inside the garage I clayed the car. Before we move on, a quick tip that I wanted to share with you guys is this lukewarm water and then you soak your clay in it. It makes it way easier to work with the clay. Just a bit of heat, so if you don't use that, you'll find that the clay sometimes might be tacky or a bit too hard. You can't shape it nicely. But just dunk it in a bucket of hot water and it becomes a lot easier to work with. Like I mentioned, I just finished up claying this car. Next up, I'm going to examine the paint. Actually, before I start examining the paint, I am going to clean the paint using Geon Prep once again, just to ensure that the paint is 100% clean after the clay. So I am going to use the Geon Prep to clean the entire surface and then we can inspect it. You'll see there's some white marks here and there, like there. You can see there's some white marks from where I wiped the paint now while claying. So Geon Prep to clean it up, then I can inspect the paint, and then from there we'll start with the paint correction. This is most definitely going to be a two-step. Audi paint is harder than something like the Focus that I was working on. So this is going to be a two-step. But yeah, let's inspect the paint and then we'll take it from there. So next up was the paint correction process. The paint was, I don't know how to put it to you, it wasn't too bad, but there was a lot of rits in the paint, and whoever detailed the car previously left the paintwork very hazy. This is not your typical vac paint that I picked up. It was my first time ever doing a Quantum Gray. I've never done a Nardo Gray either, but it was a lot softer than your typical vac paint. So the process was medium cutting compound with Menzena PF 2300, and that took care of most of the defects. That left a hazy finish on the paintwork, so the last step for us was to follow up with a finishing pad and some Menzena SA 4000. Now, normally on vac paint, for those of you who are experienced, you would need to cut with something like a super heavy cut compound 3 or 400 or a Turtle Wax T5 or T10. On this, the paint was too soft, you simply couldn't. So I used a medium compound and it still hazed up the paintwork. And with typical vac paint, you can finish off with PF 2300. With this, we cut with 2300. So that made it a bit difficult. I think it's the way this color reflects the paint, or this color reflects the light. You can see each and every defect like on a black car. It's a nightmare to correct this paint and to get it looking as sharp as you want it to look. In between all the correction, there was a ton of hybrid work going into it as well. this edge on the door, for instance, it's a very deep edge. So this entire piece had to be done with a hybrid. All these small ledges here had to be done with a hybrid. There's a lot of gloss black on the sides that had to be done with a hybrid. The entire boot was, almost the entire boot was done with a hybrid. The bumper has a lot of different contours, if I can put it like that. Same with the front bumper. So there was a lot of hybrid action on this vehicle, and for those of you who do own a hybrid, you'll know how long it takes to correct paint with a hybrid. And even then, on a 2300 and a Rupes yellow pad, it still hazed up the paint. So we still had to do 2 steps on each of the panels where we worked with hybrid. We still had to do a 2-stage correction on that as well. And then this pillar had an extremely deep scratch, which we got out, I would say about 85%. It's way less visible, but the scratch is still there. You can't correct too much on these pillars, but we did the best we could there. So after all the paintwork has been done, the next step for us was to tidy up the engine bay. That included me getting in there with a cloth and cleaning what I didn't clean up with the initial rinse, followed by a blowout, and then I applied copper pearl. Copper pearl was applied onto the entire engine bay, left to dry for a couple of minutes, and then I used my air compressor to blow it off. Now, the reason behind that is to blow all the heavy weight off of the panels, so that when I wipe it, I don't saturate the cloth too much. But also, when you blow the copper pearl with air, you blow it into nooks and crannies where your fingers can't reach. So basically, you want to do it with air, compressed air. The engine bay was done, it was time to prep the paint. Prepping the paint, I used Geom Prep obviously, to make sure that there was no polishing oils left on the surface and that the surface was bare, if I can put it like that. So the paint was bare, there was nothing on the paint. That ensures that when we apply the wax or the sealant, that we get maximum contact with the paint and not contact on top of the polishing oils, and then once that comes off, the wax comes off with it. So once the paint was clean, that was yesterday, which was Saturday. Once the paint was clean, it was time for our first layer of protection, and for that I used Blackfire Wet Diamond, which is a paint sealer. With this one I decided to do a 2-step, so first the sealer and then a wax, which needs to be done 8 hours apart. So Saturday afternoon I did the paint sealer Blackfire Wet Diamond on the entire paint job, and then this morning the second step was done, which was Colonite 845, which is an insulator wax on top of the paint sealer. Also this morning I did the interior, clean and dress all the panels. The interior wasn't too bad. There was a couple of stubborn areas where there was spills and stuff in the car, but nothing too bad. It was basically just a general cleanup, and then I protected all the surfaces. And once that was done, I had to tidy everything up. Now tidying up, that's another time consuming process. That includes toothpickery. Now toothpickery is me using a toothpick wrapped in a microfiber towel and some earbuds to clean all the crevices, the nooks and crannies, make sure that there's no wax sitting in between the panels. For instance, cleaning up around the badges, cleaning the PDC. When you polish, some of the polish gets stuck on those PDC rubbers, you clean that off. Toothpickery is a very time consuming process, but I feel like that's what sets you apart from other detailers if you do it. If you don't do it, your work looks sloppy. The paintwork is clean, but all nooks and crannies is still dirty, and there's some dust and polish and wax trapped in the crannies, and it just looks untidy. So that step you can't skip. After that, what I did was I treated the wheel arches and the tires, or I dressed them, and then I did a final wipe on the paint. So the final wipe was just a dry wipe to ensure that there's no dust on the surface, no smears, no residue, no nothing. You need to be extremely careful when you do a dry wipe. Because your towel is dry, there will be friction between the microfiber and the paint. So you need to ensure that you use no pressure. Basically everything that is in between the microfiber and the paint will scratch the paint. So you need to be extremely careful, but also a vital step. If you missed something during the waxing stage, there was a smear or you missed a small spot, the final wipe will take care of that. So that's basically how we got to this point. I'm going to show you guys some after shots now, so stay tuned for that. Once again, if you haven't done it already, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon right next to it, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a massive thumbs up, drop a comment down below, let us know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, and reflect your passion.